I am effectively a amateur sports GM. Like, you know how everyone, if you play in Santa Monica, you kind of have the guy running the group chat that's like, hey, like over the summer, like, hey, our team's going to be pretty good this year. You should come. I've just become like the group chat
Yeah.
guy of grassroots soccer on a bigger scale.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's guest is one of my oldest friends. She's a former NWSL and US Women's National Team player, currently playing in Tier 7 for Leyton Orient in England. She's an entrepreneur, a dog mom, a paddle sport enthusiast. She was recently featured in the New York Times with the headline, "From the US Women's National Team to being public enemy number one in England's lower leagues." It's Stephanie McCaffrey. Steph, welcome to the Women's Game. Tell me where you are in the world right now. What's going on?
Thanks for having me, Sam. I am in London right now, live from where Racketeer will be, which is the largest paddle facility in the UK.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear more about that. So today I mostly want to talk to you about Leyton Orient. We're going to get into that shortly. But first, I do want to ask you about Racketeer. It should be open by the time this episode comes out. Like you said, it's London's largest indoor paddle facility. I need to learn a little bit more about paddle. For our listeners who don't already know, it's a game like pickleball, but there are definitely some key differences. Steph, can you just explain what paddle is?
So paddle to me is like if pickleball and squash had a baby. If you put glass walls around a pickleball court and then you played with effectively a tennis ball and a racket with holes in it, as opposed to just a wooden bat, you would have paddle. So if you're ever walking around and you see a turf racket sport court with glass walls around it and people running around, you're probably watching paddle. If you're not, I haven't gotten to that point in my market research yet. Good for you.
Do they have paddle courts outside?
They do in Los Angeles. And for some reason that I don't understand, people do choose to build them outside in London. But I mean, you're taking a risk. It rains 300 days a year.
Okay, so the reason why we're here with Steph talking about paddle and like other various paddle sports is because Steph is an entrepreneur who is now opening her second paddle sports facility. She also has Pickle Pop in Santa Monica, California, which is a pickleball facility. Steph, I'm just trying to give everybody a sense of like, okay, we are here to talk about Leyton Orient and your soccer career, but we're also talking about pickleball and paddle. Where did this love for paddle sports come from? Why, after such a long time playing soccer at a high level, are you now doing this?
Yeah, I think the reason I started doing it was because I was looking for a way to connect with sports after soccer. You know this better than anyone. Like, soccer is the be all end all of your entire life when you're a professional player. And in a lot of ways, like, it distorted my relationship with sports as a whole because it was so intense work and winning focused. So post soccer, I got my MBA from Wharton, went to Goldman Sachs in New York, and then moved to LA for a related role in finance. And a lot of my friends who worked in finance were playing pickleball for fun, like for nothing else, for fun. And I kind of just got addicted to playing sports for fun because I forgot what it felt like after playing professional soccer for 5 years and then soccer at a really high level for the previous 15.
Wow. Okay. I love that. And I do love pickleball. I think that congratulations on both facilities. I'm so excited to come and see Racketeer. I've seen Pickle Pop in person when I was at Lynn's wedding in Southern California, and it was so cute and so fun. Threw a banger. My last question really on this paddle sports topic is, what do you think the main differences are in what English people, you're opening Racketeer, the paddle facility in London. So what English people are looking for in a facility versus what LA people are looking for in a facility?
Everyone asks me this, and my short answer is nothing. People are people. Like, I don't think that humans that live in the UK and Europe are inherently that different than humans that live in America. What is different is trends. And right now, pickleball is a huge trend in the US with paddle growing and new. Here, paddle's a huge trend in the UK with pickleball growing and new. I think they're both going to get pretty big because they're addictive, they're welcoming, they're accessible, and it's much more fun than going to Barry's. Like, Barry's sucks. It's too hard. Like, if I want to sweat now, I want to come here. I want to go play paddle. I don't want to get, like, last time I went to Barry's, some guy was like, "How good do you want to be?" And I was like, "I don't know, medium." Like, leave me alone.
Not that good. Yeah, not that good. I just want to like play with my friends. Yep. Okay, well, I love that. We're talking about playing with our friends. I want to now ask about Leyton Orient because as you retired from playing soccer in the NWSL and the US Women's National Team, you got into all of these other incredible entrepreneurial finance-related ventures. I know you were in like venture capital for a while. You went to business school. You did all this amazing stuff. And now you again find yourself back, yes, in the entrepreneurial world, but also parallel to that, you're playing and helping manage Leyton Orient's women's team. They're a tier 7 football team that plays in England. So for our American audience who maybe haven't heard of Leyton Orient yet, can you just explain what the club is?
In one sentence, I'd say Leyton Orient is one of the oldest and most historic clubs in UK football. They're based in East London, one stop on the tube east of Stratford. So the tube stop is called Leyton. The area where the stadium is called Leyton. It's one of the coolest stadiums, I think, in the world, because you have this beautiful old English football stadium that is really hyper central. Like, you can be standing at Buckingham Palace and get there within 20 minutes in the tube. So yeah, it's one of the oldest, most historic football clubs in London and in the UK as a whole.
Okay, so why are you, Stephanie McCaffrey, girl who grew up in Massachusetts, went to BC, played in the NWSL, why are you involved with Leyton Orient?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So it started with my family. So my dad was looking for kind of a club and a community to join. He realized quickly through his own basketball career that you build community through sport. And yeah, you can go to a Chelsea game or an Arsenal game, but you're not going to feel like a part of it. You're going to feel like you get your ticket, watch awesome football, and leave. So he started going to Orient games, met some of the investors there, met some of the management there, and just fell in love with the club. And when he fell in love with the club, he did two things. Number one was he joined as a minority investor in the men's team. And number two, his real estate investment bank that he started over here, Eastdil Secured, became the front of kit sponsor for the men's team. The men's team playing in League One, we had a heartbreaker loss to Charlton last year to go up from League One to the championship, which sucks, but I think it also shows the potential of the club. And I was super happy for my dad, who started off as a fan, to be in Wembley, seeing Eastdil Secured strapped across their shirts with them trying to go to the championship. And like, what I think is one of the most exciting football games in the UK by far, the League One to championship promotion.
I feel like a lot of American fans have followed Wrexham, and not to compare the two clubs in any way, but I think that idea of climbing the ranks from tier to tier and eventually with the ultimate goal of someday reaching the Premier League and making all your clubs and communities' dreams come true is so addicting and so fun to watch. So can you just explain quickly, if the men's team, Leyton Orient, are in League One, which is the third tier in men's football, it goes Premier League, Championship, League One, why are the women's team all the way down in tier 7? And how did you, as Steph, get involved with the women's team?
I'm glad you asked about why are the women's team in tier 7, because what happened was the previous ownership had a women's team that was in tier 3 and 4 about 6 or 7 years ago. And unfortunately, that team was spun out into an organization that is what was not Leyton Orient, called London Seaward, 5 years ago. And look, I think there's been a lot of speculation as to why that happened. I don't believe it's fair to speculate to fans. It happened because of budget and things were tight during COVID. And under previous ownership, the women's team was not wanted. Honestly, Sam, I thought about kind of sugarcoating that and not saying it, but I think it's an important part of the story. Like, Leyton Orient's women's team should have never been in tier 7. They got put in tier 7 because of unfortunate financial circumstances during COVID.
Yeah.
And luckily, Olivia Worsfold, who was a player coach for the team, who's fantastic, started it up with a group of girls who I genuinely adore, who I played with last year. They were able to earn promotion into tier 7. And at that point, I think had been just close enough to getting up to tier 6. And that was when the men's ownership, who my dad had a really good relationship, approached me and him about doing a partnership, knowing I was here for Racketeer. So Racketeer is the reason I came to London, but things kind of just fell into place with me being here about creating a partnership to give the women's team the next boost.
Well, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, now you have this family connection to the club, which you've come to love and be a part of and be a fan of. You have so much playing experience in the football world. As we know, you have caps with the US Women's National Team, but you also then garnered all of that experience in the business world, going to business school, working for Goldman Sachs, working in venture capital. How would you describe your role with Leyton Orient Women? You're playing on the team, but you're also doing more than that. So what are your other responsibilities?
My responsibilities span from things that are really serious, which is making sure everyone in the team has health insurance. Because unfortunately, sub the WSL2, you often see GoFundMes from girls who tear their ACL because they're not covered here. There's a public healthcare system. which is fantastic. Unfortunately, due to capacity constraints in that public healthcare system, if you tear your ACL, you could be waiting a year for surgery, and that doubles your recovery. So you'll like a girl on #United, unfortunately, where a lot of our players came from. She's in tier 3. She tore her ACL. There's a GoFundMe up, and everyone wants to support her, and they donated, which is an amazing process, but it shouldn't be the process. So the first thing I said when we come in is, at a minimum, we want players to have a 5,000 pound injury coverage playing women's football that they can then put towards a surgery here in the UK. Something that's not as serious that I do is I'm really focused on our Christmas party. I don't know if we're going to do it. I don't know if we're going to do a night away in the Cotswolds or we're going to go for a blowout night out in London. Either way, I think I couldn't think of a better way to focus my time when I'm opening a new business and trying to get us promoted than planning the best Christmas party tier 7's ever seen. It's really just everything. Like everyone asks me that. I'm like, literally everything. Like, oh, hey, what's the food after the game? Okay, let's do cheesy pasta. Hey, we need health insurance. Okay, we need to do media. Okay, we need a Christmas party. Like, it's a startup. Nobody does one thing.
So you would kind of describe your role as like player/GM, but tier 7 doesn't really officially have the GM role. So you're doing a lot because you just want the team to succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. I am effectively a amateur sports GM. Like, you know how everyone, if you play in Santa Monica, you kind of have the guy running the group chat that's like, hey, like over the summer, like, hey, our team's going to be pretty good this year. You should come. I've just become like the group chat guy of grassroots soccer on a bigger scale.
Okay. My other big question. So I feel like I've kind of skated over this so far. You are playing for this team in tier 7. And I'm kind of like, has any US women's national team player ever played tier 7 football? And I feel like the first question people might want to know is like, do you just score 5 goals every game?
I am one of 6 ex-professional soccer players on our team. And, the short answer is sometimes I score 5 goals. Oftentimes I don't, because I'm passing it to Sammy, who's another ex-professional footballer who will score 5 goals in a game. I think the outside perception is that I'm very dominant. I score 5 goals. The rest of the team is okay. That is not the case. I am one of 8 or 9 really good players that used to play in tier 1 or tier 2 football. And because of circumstance and kind of getting left behind by the game, are now playing at a grassroots level and dominating. Like, I, to my core right now, I'm not the best player on our team. I genuinely am not. Like, we have a girl, I always say the 2 players I want to sell are Grace Gillard and Lucy Porter, are 26 and 27. Lucy played in the championship. Grace has played in the championship as well.
That makes sense. I want to hear a little bit more about who tier 7 football is meant for. But first, you mentioned you're working all of these hours on your other projects like Racketeer. What is actually the time commitment to play for the team? How many trainings a week do you have? How many games do you have a season? What does that look like?
So we train on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8:30. So you're able to go to work and make the trainings. Our rule is if you make one of the 2 trainings, you can play in the games. So I would say half of the team goes twice and half of the team goes once to training. And then we do play almost every Sunday. So it's a big time commitment because it becomes hard to do things like weddings and travel and other things. Our rule is make 1 training a week and try to be at 80 to 85% of the games. So don't skip the game to go to the pub, but don't miss a wedding because we have a game. That's kind of how we phrase it.
It is a significantly less of a time commitment than a professional team. And that is exactly the case. It's an amateur team. These women are working other jobs. For you, Steph, as some of our listeners may already know, you did have to step away from professional soccer in 2018 due to having some health issues, what you now know to be Graves' disease. But at the time, it was pretty unclear. And I'm interested in if your journey back to soccer has changed your relationship with the game at all. Is playing at this level unlocking something for you with your love for the game? Are you feeling healthy? What has playing at this level kind of done for you?
I left the game with a taste in my mouth that professional soccer is ruthless, but worth it. And there's a ruthlessness about what we did that brings you a lot of joy, but also brings you a lot of pain. And I think I was always sad that my journey with football in my last 4 to 5 years not ended badly, because everyone's football ends badly except for like the 2 people who win the World Cup and ride off into the sunset. Like, it just gets exhausting to be so up and down. And like Leyton Orient, other than a couple own goals against Bournemouth, is really just an up. Like, it's so fun. And it's connected me with why we all started, which is find something you're good at that you absolutely love with people you absolutely love. And like, yeah, the level of play is different, but like our away trip to Manchester at its core doesn't feel that different than an away trip with the Boston Breakers. It's the same group of people you love being with and doing something awesome.
I love that. I actually get such a similar feeling from this local team, Vermont Green, that I have coached the past 2 summers. It reminded me of all of the good things about soccer, having to step away myself due to injury. I feel like all of the bad things came to the forefront, and I was like, this is bull. I wish I could still play. I wish they took better care of me. I wish that I wasn't limping around on my knee. But then going back and being a part of a team again is like, oh my God, I remember why I love this now. Like, you get so distracted by how hard it is at the end and how much it sucks to lose the game, but being back in it in a positive environment, in a positive way, is such a perfect reminder of like the best parts about it. Who's playing in tier 7? Describe the level. You've told us about the time commitment, but what do your teammates want out of their football?
Most players that play in tier 7 played the equivalent of like ECNL or Division 3 football. So like, for example, we played a team, the Comets 2 weeks ago, and one of the girls had a Stars of Massachusetts sweatshirt on. Like, that is generally the level of,
what?
Which is so random. I know. It was insane.
That's your club team growing up.
I ran up to her and I was like, hey, and she was like, who the are you? But I would say it's girls that played the equivalent of Division 3-ish soccer, where the game's always been a part of their life. They're good enough technically. They would not be Division 1 soccer players, and they would not be professional soccer players. Our team has players that are only Division 1 players or would be professional soccer players, and that is why you've seen the imbalance in results.
Okay, and we're going to get to the imbalance of results in just a second. But before we do, thinking about the tiers, so at the very top of the football pyramid that you play in is the WSL. That's teams like Chelsea and Arsenal, teams that we here at the Women's Game are covering every week. Then there's the WSL 2, formerly known as the Championship. Now it's called WSL 2. That's the second tier, followed by tiers 3, 4, 5, 6, and your tier 7. Which of those tiers are truly professional and paying their players a salary to play for them?
Tiers 1 and 2 are the only ones who do it outright. Tiers 3 and 4, you have a couple teams that are doing it right and a lot of teams doing it wrong. So like, I'm not here to pick on any one specific team, but I just told a story of girls who are playing in tier 3 without health insurance, private healthcare. Like that would that ever happen in a million years in League One? No. But then you have Fulham in tier 4, who's one of my favorite groups of girls and one of my favorite clubs on the planet, who they train at night 3 times a week, but they are treated like professional footballers. Bournemouth, who just waxed us in the FA Cup, like they're in tier 3, but that's a professional football team. So it kind of reminds me of the NWSL 7 years ago when we'd go play Portland and it would be a professional setup with 20,000 people. And then in Chicago, we were stuck in like an old basement in the Eclipse training facility with the roof leaking, like all piling into our cars and literally driving onto the field because there was just nothing, because we didn't have the capital. Like tiers 3 and 4 are not that different to what the NWSL was 10 years ago.
Okay, this is all making sense. Would it actually be like offensive to say that tier 7 is like Sunday league football?
No.
Or is that actually like what it is?
No, it's Sunday league football. Like, I think, there at its core, it would be equivalent to a good game of pickup in Los Angeles on a Sunday. Not more than that. We have, when we do offsides, your own player calls offsides. So what's often a common fight in tier 7 soccer is when you get called offsides by their coach and you're like, dude, what the I was not offsides. And then he's like, whatever, I'm doing my best. And I'm like, well, you, I wasn't offsides. That happens all the time.
Okay, so is there just one center ref?
There's one center ref.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a good picture of like what kind of resources there are available. It is an official league, but it is not held up to the same standards as even tiers 3 or 4. You don't have sideline referees.
No, like one of my favorite teams in our league is Luton Town Reserves. And we played them at Brisbane Road in the men's stadium because we do that like every 4 or 5 weeks or so. And I'm paraphrasing, but like they were just kind of like, why are we like, this is a lot. And we were like, yeah, we know. Don't you love it? And they're like, even though I think they're really happy for the opportunity to play in the stadium, there's also a little bit about like, no one in the history of tier 7 has ever done this. And it's why I know we're going to get to this and I'll stop here, but we're ruffling some feathers.
Okay, perfect. I want to talk about your ruffling some feathers. You have high goals, aspirations, standards for your team because you want to do what's best for the club. You want to do what's best for the girls. You want to provide them an environment where they can play pretty professionally, have, access to private healthcare if they, God forbid, get injured. So you are allowed to do some things to make their training better, to make their lives better when they're coming to training. Is your ultimate goal to keep moving up in the pyramid? And what are you able to do to ensure that you move up, let's say, next season?
The short answer is we want to move up every year without making drastic changes all at once. So this year, every year, the goal is to get promoted, and it's to do it in a way that is within reason financially and gives the girls as much resources as possible. So I think there's this idea floating around that like we're paying girls illegally 50 grand per player. And like, everyone's just fine with it because we want to go up. And I'm like, that is so diabolically insane. Like, not one player gets paid a salary. These girls get meals, transit to and from, resources for a gym, resources for health insurance. Like, no player is reporting income to the HMRC. A, it's a violation of rules. And B, why would we do that? It doesn't make sense. It's like lighting money on fire to be paying salaries in this division, even if you wanted to cheat, which we don't. So what we'll do is we'll operate with this model another year when we go up. I think given that we've won 6 games with a goal differential of 67, I'm going to assume we're going to go up this year, if I may.
Okay. So you're winning. What are some of the scores of your last couple games? You're winning. You're providing a great environment. Mm-hmm. So you're attracting talented players to your team, players who could probably play in tiers 3 or 4, but are choosing to play for Leyton Orient because of some of these benefits, because of the environment that you've created. You're winning games 8-0, 13-0. Is that right?
The lowest score in our league has been 7-0. So we win our games in the league between 7 and 14-0 on a given weekend. And the reason is most of our players play tiers 2, 3, or 4, but tiers 3 and 4 for a lot of teams is the worst deal in women's football, in my opinion. It's a crazy time commitment for like 40 pounds a week. You don't see your friends, you don't see your family, and you're stuck without health insurance oftentimes and like Premier Inn, like not being treated the way you deserve. You're giving way more to the game than you're getting back. And a lot of the girls that are on our team are just like, I've had it. We want a new project and we want to build something special and build it the right way.
Let's imagine we're on an amateur team. We're playing kind of Sunday league football, and there's this one team that's winning every game 10-0. Naturally, that's upsetting some people. You're facing some backlash, Steph, for winning these games by such big margins. My understanding of this is that it's some fans and some people in the league who believe you should be investing, I guess, slower. Sure, certainly totally fine to win the league and have aspirations of getting promoted, but you're winning by so much that they feel it's taking away some of the joy, some of the sanctity of this league. It's you're winning by a huge margin and maybe disincentivizing some of the other teams from even showing up. They're going to lose 13-0. I feel like as like an American sports person, I'm kind of like, yeah, you want to move up. You're going to do the best you can. You shouldn't pull any punches. I don't fully understand the nuance of this controversy of why should you invest less in order to do this more slowly. But I'm curious what your understanding of the situation is and kind of what the nuance is to this controversy. And this, you said yourself, you're ruffling some feathers. How do you understand the issue?
Public enemy number one. So the reason I became public enemy number one is because I think generally speaking, just people are averse to change in general. Like it's in our nature to be averse to change. And because this has genuinely never happened before, it's naturally going to get eyeballs and attention. There are a lot of people in our comment section, which I don't like to make this focus, but I will flag 85% of them are men with less than 50 followers who feel the need to say, these players are ridiculous. Why would you make the choice to come to this division? A lot of the attack is actually on our players. Like, oh, you must feel great about yourselves. Why would you ever drop down 3 divisions? Of course you're winning this much. And my response to them is, I understand your perspective, but until you've been playing tier 3 soccer, waitressing to get by, not being able to work, giving up everything, sitting on that bus trip home 2.5 hours on a Sunday night. Like, I don't really value your opinion. I'm sorry, I just don't. Like, you don't get to tell my friend Ellie Leak, who was on Blackburn Rovers, and you know the controversy that Blackburn has suffered, like what she gets to do with her career. If she wants to train once a week and play on the weekends and occasionally take a Sunday off instead of playing tier 3, that's her choice. It's not yours. And so while I understand, and I don't ever want to make the players in our league feel like, because the players in our league are the ones I respect and who I want to hear from. Who I don't want to hear from is the dude sitting in his underwear telling Ellie Leak what to do with her life. Like, that's just not, that's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm here to take feedback. Can you tell how strongly I feel about this?
Yes, I can. And I really do respect it. And I think that the end of your own career, you have come out and said that the option for you to kind of fight through your illness and return to not making very much money playing professional soccer was not as good of an option as going to business school and maximizing your earning potential at the time you at the time you had to retire.
Yeah.
I'm curious how your experience having to make that decision to step away, what you wish could have filled the gap for you. How did your own journey shape your views on what playing soccer at this level should look like?
When we were in the NWSL, the middle didn't exist. You either played professionally or you played in a game on Sundays in LA without a referee. And I think the first thing I realized retrospectively is I wish there was a happy medium. Like, I wish I could have gone to business school, played the equivalent of tier 2 or tier 3 while I recovered, and potentially had the option to still have soccer be a part of my life without it completely taking over. But in America, there's not. And you fast forward 10 years later, tiers 2 and tier 3 are now, a lot of them, professional soccer, except for the teams I mentioned that are really not up to task. Like, these teams are now 4 or 5 times a week. And I think, like, tying it back to what you said in the beginning, how this is entrepreneurial, like, entrepreneurs I admire, if they don't see an environment, or they see, like, I don't like to refer us as a gap in the market, but if you see a gap and nothing existing and something you really want to do, create it yourself. And that's what we've tried to create in Leyton Orient, which is an amateur team that trains at a professional level 4 to 5 hours a week to allow you to be an awesome soccer player, but also allow you to have an awesome career. And it's something that I craved when I retired. And because it didn't exist, I wanted to create it here. And that's what we've done.
To me, hearing about this, and obviously I am your friend, it has taken me a ton of conversations with you to try to understand, the differences in culture and the differences in expectation. There's so many levels of football in the English pyramid, but hearing about this from your perspective, it's so clear that your passion for Leyton Orient and for women's football in general are coming from the right place. I see this as you giving opportunities to players to continue to play in a positive setting, and having the opportunity to aspire to grow with the club and aspire to, represent Leyton Orient and move up, hopefully to tier 6 next year, hopefully someday to the WSL. And so I feel like your goals for the club are truly admirable. I'm so excited to see you continue leading the women's side of the club. I think to wrap all of this up, as Americans, how have you come to feel like you really embody Leyton Orient, an English club? What has this club come to mean to you?
At its core, Leyton Orient is an underdog club, because for the most part, every club in London is very well capitalized, very well resourced, and doesn't feel neighborhoody. You have your exceptions, like QPR, I think is an example. They feel really neighborhoody, but Leyton is a neighborhood, community focused club. We are small, but we're mighty. And we have a fan base and a spirit that you wouldn't expect. And I think what I've always latched onto is the idea of you wouldn't expect it, and try to take that into the women's team. Like, what can we do with the women's team for this club that truly makes us stand out in a way that's different? Because the men's team's different from all of its counterparts in London. And the way I've tried to do that is connecting it to my own personal mission of, so many girls leave this game before they should because of circumstance. How can we give them that game back? How can we not say, hey, you have to decide, it's this or that. It's a sandwich that no one wants to eat. And what I hope Leyton Orient can embody is, like, these girls are underdogs that are on our team. It might not seem it when we win 7-0, but they were underdogs when they were working 20-hour days to support themselves playing in tier 3 and tier 4. And I just really urge the American fans who might want to get involved in our story, or the current Orient fans who don't understand, to put yourself in the shoes of these women who have given way more to the game than it's ever given back. Because there's no more bigger component of an underdog story than that for me.
That is so beautifully said. And I'm so glad that I am now, I get to be a fan of this club too. It's like so fun. And I do feel like I'm so glad we get to have this conversation on here. It's like so thought provoking, and I think really gives a lot of like depth to the conversation around moving up a pyramid. Like all of these tiers of English women's football, we do hear sometimes only the negative stories. And I do think this has the potential to be one of the really positive ones. So thank you for all that you're doing to give back to the game. I'm so proud to be your friend. And this was so much fun to chat.
Thanks, Sammy. Hopefully this gets, if this gets 10% of the views that Christy's got, I've won. The Christmas party's even bigger.
Thank you all so much for listening. I loved chatting with Steph about her ventures in paddle and in football. It's honestly been really cool for me to see Steph invest so much of her time and energy into Leyton Orient. And I'm really happy that she's found such love in the game again, and that she's doing something that she's always said she wanted to do, using her intelligence and her resources and her passion for the game to make women's soccer better. I'm really, really proud of her, and I hope that you all enjoyed hearing from her. Our next episode will be a Friendlies interview with Allie Watt on Thursday. Allie had a busy offseason. She just got married and she's moving back to Denver to play for the Summit in 2026. That interview will drop on our YouTube channel and our podcast feed later this week. Thank you all so much for being here and for your continued support. We'll see you soon.